In the early 20th century, residents across parts of New England began reporting sudden, distant booms. The sounds were strong enough to be felt as well as heard. They did not follow a clear pattern, and no confirmed source was ever established. Along the coasts and inland towns of New England, the landscape moves between open shoreline, wooded areas, and small communities set at a distance from one another. In many of these places, sound carries differently than it does in a crowded city. Across water, it can travel farther. Through still air, it can move without interruption. And in quieter environments, even a distant noise can stand out clearly. The rhythm of these areas is steady. Waves against the shore, wind through trees, occasional movement from boats or distant work. Most sounds belong to something that can be identified. A vessel moving offshore, work being done nearby, weather shifting across the region. There is an expectation that sound connects to a source, that if something is heard, it can be traced back to where it began. But in the early 20th century, that expectation was interrupted. Reports began to appear of sounds that did not clearly belong to anything that could be found. At first, the sounds did not stand apart from the environment around them. A distant boom could be explained. Work along the coast, a vessel offshore, something moving across the water that carried its sound farther than expected. Those who heard it would pause for a moment, look in the direction it seemed to come from, and then continue with what they were doing. There was no reason to treat it as anything unusual. The sound itself was brief, a single report, deep, carried across distance in a way that suggested weight behind it, but not enough detail to define what had caused it. Then it happened again. Not immediately, not in a way that formed a pattern at first, but often enough that those who heard it began to remember it. A sound that did not stay, a sound that did not repeat in quick succession. Just something that arrived, was heard, and then was gone. In some cases, it was felt as much as heard, a slight vibration through the ground or through nearby structures, not strong enough to cause damage, but enough to be noticed after the fact. Still, it remained easy to explain, or at least easy to dismiss. There were always possibilities, something distant, something out of sight, something that would not need further attention, until it continued. Over time, the reports did not increase all at once. They appeared in different places, at different moments, carried by the people who had heard them. One town would note a sound. Days later, another would describe something similar. Not identical in detail, but close enough to recognize. A low, distant boom, brief, without echo, that could be traced back to a clear point. Those who heard it began to compare what they had experienced, not formally at first, just in conversation. Descriptions shared in small ways. What it sounded like, how far it seemed, whether it had been felt as well as heard. In some cases, the sound came from the direction of the coast. In others, it seemed to come from inland. There was no single direction that held, no consistent location that could be pointed to as the source. And when people looked for it, when they paused and listened again, there was nothing left to follow. The sound did not continue. It did not repeat in a way that allowed it to be tracked. It arrived, and then it was gone. As more reports gathered, the pattern became clearer in a different way. Not a pattern of timing or location, but a pattern of absence. A sound that could be heard across distance without anything visible to connect it to. As the reports continued, attention turned toward what could produce a sound like that. The descriptions were consistent enough to suggest weight behind it. Not a sharp crack, not a repeated noise, something deeper, a single impact that traveled across distance. One explanation considered was natural movement along the coastline. In colder conditions, ice can shift and break with force, producing sounds that carry over water and across land. Pressure builds. The surface holds for a time, then releases. The result can be sudden, a sound that arrives without warning and does not repeat. Another possibility involved distant activity at sea, large vessels, or in some cases, controlled detonations or artillery tests far offshore. Under certain atmospheric conditions, sound can travel farther than expected. It can bend, carry over long distances, arriving in places where the source is no longer visible or even nearby. There was also the effect of the air itself. Temperature layers can form across the landscape, especially near water. These layers can guide sound, allowing it to move in ways that do not follow a straight path. A noise produced far away can arrive with clarity, but without direction, as if it had begun much closer. Each of these explanations provided something that could be imagined. A shift in ice along a distant surface, a force released far offshore, a sound carried through the air in a way that concealed where it had begun, but none of them accounted for every report. The variation in location, the lack of consistent timing, the absence of any confirmed event that matched the sound when it was heard. The explanations remained possible, but they did not settle the question. Over time, the reports became less frequent, or perhaps they became less widely shared. The sounds did not form a pattern that could be mapped. They did not increase into something that could be studied in a fixed way. They remained what they had always been, isolated moments. A sound that arrived, was recognized, and then left nothing behind. The landscapes of New England remain as they were: coastlines, towns, open areas where sound can still travel across distance. Most noises can be identified, traced back to a source, explained by what is visible or known. But the earlier reports describe something different: a sound that carried weight without direction, a presence that could be heard but not located. No single explanation closed the record. No confirmed source was ever established, only a series of moments where the quiet of the environment was interrupted by something that couldn't be clearly found. That was tonight's story. You've been listening to The Midnight Box. Wherever you are, thank you for listening. Good night.